A very good morning to one and all present over here. We are here to celebrate the International English Language Day and the birth anniversary of William Shakespeare. On this occasion, the students of Standard 8, 9, and 10 will remind you the pleasures of reading and the significance of books in our lives. They will review their favorite books, which has touched them deeply. Before we begin this celebration, I would request Mrs. Deepika Das to lead us in prayer.
Let's pray. As is customary, let us commit everything into the hands of God. Let's pray. Join me silently as I pray on behalf of all of you. O Lord, our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this lovely day. Thank you for enabling us to celebrate this day. We commit the great writers into thy hands, especially William Shakespeare. We commit these dear children into thy hands as they are about to take part in this book review competition. Bless them, Lord. Bless their words. Whatever they are going to speak, give them your wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Help them to express themselves well. Grant them your grace and mercy. Let the words of their mouth and the meditations of their heart be acceptable in thy sight. Bless them, increase their confidence. Give them your wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Let your Holy Spirit guide them. Help them to speak confidently and fluently. Bless them from the beginning to the end. We commit our principal coordinator, all the teachers, and all the participants who are witnessing this competition. May it be a great success. May the children learn from this great competition. Bless each one of us, committing the entire competition into thy hands and seeking your blessings. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, ma'am. I would now invite Mrs. Uma Banerjee to speak on the significance of 23rd April.
Good morning, everyone. 23rd April is celebrated by UNESCO to pay tribute to great literary figures like William Shakespeare, Miguel de Cervantes, and Inca Garcilaso de la Vega, who died on this day. The connection between 23rd April and books was first made in the year 1923 by booksellers in Spain to honor Miguel de Cervantes, who died on 23rd April. Later, in the year 1995, the UNESCO General Conference held in Paris finalized this day as World Book Day to pay tribute and honor authors worldwide and also to promote the art of reading. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the information. Book review is a very interesting subject. And to explain what exactly it is, I would request Mrs. Amrita Behera to share the information.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sushmita Miss, for inviting me here. And someone asks, why do you read a book? And the common question will be, reading a book means gaining knowledge. Reading a book is to enhance creativity and vocabulary. Isn't that what we usually hear and say? Sure, there are some factors, but mainly, why do we read these books? Because it interests us, especially to younger generation. If we only read just because we have to, neither will we enjoy nor will we gain anything. We can only gain when we focus and enjoy what we are reading. For instance, you are into fantasy or adventure, but you have no choice but to read a historical based book, which is something you don't enjoy much. Will you be able to read it with interest? Answer is no. And after some days, when we ask you about something from that book, will you be able to remember? No, because reading those books is just for the heck of reading. You didn't read it with interest. Now, If you were to read your favorite fantasy or science fiction, your nose will be in the book 24/7 if possible. And if asked about a character or scene, you start describing every single line in detail. Isn't it true? Saying this from experience, it has to be true. Reading a book is not only for enhancing your vocabulary, but your happiness and enjoyment. You would say, what is book review? In simple words, book review is writing and expressing our thoughts about the story and explaining in depth about its details. It is not exactly a summary. Don't get confused. There is a book report which we write for our school. A book review is about a story or a novel. It is not a summary because we analyze the story and express our views on it. We describe our point of view in the story. In a book review, there is a thorough description, critical analysis, and evaluation of the quality, meaning, and significance of a book. Often we write it after a proper research on the topic. Other readers are interested in the opinion of others for books. Don't we also ask someone about a book they have read and you are interested in it too to read? Don't we ask about their opinion, whether they like the book or they just read it because they had nothing else to do? If they give you their honest and detailed thoughts, then we might find new books that are suited for us. If you are stuck on what to say in a review, there are certain points which you should remember. It can help to imagine that you are talking to someone who's asking you whether you should read the book or not. Start with a couple of sentences describing what the book is about, but without giving any spoilers or revealing plot twists. Try to avoid writing the main details about anything that happens in the main plots of the book. Discuss what particularly you liked about the book. Focus on your thoughts and feelings about the story and the way it was told. You could only try answering a couple of questions like, who was your favorite character? Why you liked him? What and what not? Did the character feel real to you? These are certain questions which a person may ask. Then, if there are some things you don't like about it, you do talk about it too. Don't forget. You wish the ending had been a change hanger because you found it frustrating. Did you find it difficult to care about a main character? And could you work out why? Think about it. Summarize some of your thoughts on the book by suggesting the type of reader you are recommending the book to. For example, whether the readers are young, older to you, fans of relationship, drama, mystery, comedy, whatever. With this short information, I would like to end here. All the best to all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We now have 9 avid readers with us who are now going to showcase their talents by talking about their favorite books. And their favorite books have really touched them and left a deep impact on them. We have with us from Standard 9, Rupika Sarangi, Sailaja Sahu, Shubham Mehed. From Standard 9, we have Brinda Mishra, Ayush Kumar Naik, and Ankur Das Gupta. From Standard 10, we have Bhargavi Sahu, Abhijit Patnaik, and Rebecca Mahanti. So I welcome all of you and all the best. As I call out your names, kindly come and present yourself. We would start with Standard 8, Rupika Sarangi from 8B.
Good morning, teachers, principal sir, coordinator ma'am, and my friends. I am Ropika Sarangi of class 8B, and today I am going to speak about my favorite book. My favorite book is the Harry Potter book series. It is a series of fantasy novels written by J.K. Rowling. Born on July 31, 1965, Johnny Kathleen Rowling, better known by her pen name J.K. Rowling, is a British author, screenwriter, television producer, and film producer. Some other books written by J.K. Rowling are Quidditch Through the Ages, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and The Tale of the Beadle and the Bard, and many more. The Harry Potter series is about an orphan named Harry mistreated by his uncle and aunt and his cousin. On his 11th birthday, a giant man named Rubius Hagrid visits Harry and tells him that he is the son of two powerful wizards and is a wizard himself, and that he has a place in a wizarding school named Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Harry finds that his parents were killed by a dark wizard named Voldemort. On reaching Hogwarts, Harry gets to know that he himself is in danger. He gets two best friends, Ron and Hermione, who stay with him in the dark times, happy moments, and until the very end. He meets Dumbledore, a teacher who guides Harry and prepares him for the fight. He also instills in Harry the will to fight against dark forces. He meets McGonagall, another teacher, who is a perfect mixture of courage, compassion, and motherly affection. With the help of his friends and teachers, Harry succeeds in defeating the Dark Lord. My favorite character in the series is Harry's best friend, Hermione Granger. She is stunning, kind, clever, smart, and knows what to do in every tough situation. She is very reliable, and this is shown when she takes the blame for Harry and Ron because they went to the girls' toilet to warn her about the troll attack. This is what started their beautiful friendship. She also showed her sensitive side when she cried about Draco Malfoy calling her a mudblood. This shows that she cares what people think about her. She was willing to help Harry no matter what happens. When she and Harry helped Sirius Black, Harry's godfather, to escape on the hippogriff named Buckbeak. She also showed her violent side when she punched Draco Malfoy in the face. Hermione said, books and cleverness. There are more important things. Friendship and bravery. Together, Harry, Ron, and Hermione prove that friendship is worth anything and everything. I would recommend everyone to read this book because the writing consists of rich word choice that helps to improve one's vocabulary. The fantastic magical world and adventure helps improving imagination. Harry Potter teaches important life lessons that are sometimes easier to learn from a fantasy book than a realistic one. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Ropika. I now call upon Sailaja Sahu from Standard 8A.
Good morning, everyone. I am Shelja Sahu, and I am going to talk about my favorite novel series, which is The Twilight Saga by Stephanie Meyer. She is an American novelist and a producer. She is known for writing vampire stories. Her other books are Midnight Sun, Breaking Dawn, The Host, New Moon, Eclipse, and many others. Twilight was first published in October 2005. These books talk about a 17-year-old girl, Bella Swan, who lived with her mother, Renee, in Arizona. But soon she moved to live with her father, Chief Charlie Swan, at Forks, Washington. When she gets to Forks High School, she meets Dr. Cullen's adopted children. But she gets confused about what Edward Cullen really is. and she always gets it wrong until one of her friend of Lapush, Jacob, tells her some scary legends of his tribe. That's when Bella finds that Edward is a vampire, and now Bella is in love with a vampire, which causes a lot of problem between both of them. This story talks about like falling in love with a vampire. It's amazing because according to book, a vampire is the one who can love you forever, and that's why this book has millions of fans. My favorite character is Bella Swan. She is very passionate, and as a human, Bella possessed a natural immunity to mental powers of vampire. She develops it into an ability to project a mental shield that protects others from psychic power of other vampires. There's more than 100 million Twilight book series are in print. I think the story is awesome and that's why it became one of the best selling in New York Times and had won many awards, the book and the movie. That's why I like this book. Thank you.
Thank you, Sailaja. We now have Shubham Meher from 8D. Shubham Meher.
Good morning, one and all. Respected Principal Sir, Coordinator Ma'am, and all teachers. Myself, Shubham Meher of Class 8D. Today, I am going to review an immortal book, a legacy for ages to come. This book is an autobiography of Gandhi ji, named as an autobiography or the story of my experiments with truth. This book covers Gandhiji's life from his early childhood through to 1921. This book also covers all aspects of Gandhiji's spiritual life. This book consists of 420 pages. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi holds that place in the history of Indian independence which is undeniably supreme. Undoubtedly, he is the greatest freedom fighter. Besides this, he is a prolific author, editor, and journalist. His autobiography, The Story of My Experiments with Truth, is the most inspiring and popular book. It was originally written in Gujarati and was published in weekly magazine Navjivan from 1925 to 1929. This autobiography is divided in 5 parts, starting from his childhood days, his experience in South Africa, where he experimented the powerful weapon of Satyagraha, his transformation from Mohan to Mahatma, and his various experiments on fundamental principles of truth, till the year 1921, after which his life was so public that he felt there was hardly anything to write about. Gandhiji's non-violent struggle in South Africa and India had already brought him to such a level of notoriety, adulation, and controversy that when asked to write an autobiography midway through his career, he took it as an opportunity to explain himself. Gandhiji says that his attempt to get closer to the divine power led him seek purity through simple living, dietary practices, celibacy, and ahimsa. It is in the sense that he calls his book The Story of My Experiments with Truth, offering it also as a reference book for those who would follow his footsteps. Gandhiji's autobiography can be rated as most of the popular and most influential book in the recent history. This book is very different from other autobiographies. The autobiographies normally contain self-praise by the authors and they want to criticize their opponents and boost their own image. But Gandhiji's autobiography is completely free from all this. It is marked with humility and truthfulness. This autobiography is one of the best-seller and is translated in nearly all languages of the world. Perhaps never before on so grand scale has any man succeeded in shaping the course of history while using the weapon of peace, ahimsa. To many, it will have the value of a new Bible or a new Gita. For here are words that have come out from the depth of truth. Here is tireless striving that stretches its arm towards perfection. Autobiography, in a way, is a confession of Gandhi's faith, a very basic document for the study of his thought. It is most valuable book for every student for facing the truth and acquiring moral courage and fight against unethical practice. This book is a lighthouse for all students. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubham. We now have Brinda Mishra from Standard 9.
Life is not a problem to be solved. You just need to keep in mind that you have to do something you love and you need to be surrounded by people who love you. Good morning, one and all. This is Brinda Mishra of Standard 9B and I belong to Robert House. Today, on this occasion, I would like to speak about my favorite book, Ikigai. Ikigai is a Japanese word that translates into a reason to jump out of bed every morning, or in simpler words, we can also say that it is the purpose of our being. Around 80% of people believe that human beings need a reason to live. While others are still discovering it, many people have already found it. Ikigai is my favorite book because it has all the solutions to my unanswered questions related to life, death, existence, immortality, happiness, unhappiness, and almost everything. This book has changed me a lot. Ever since I've read this, I'm improving as an individual. I have learned many things about life and its rules. I have become more disciplined, polite, and understanding. The word ikigai has originated from Okinawa, an island near Japan, which is declared to have the most number of centenarians by the UN in the world. And their secret to this long life is following their ikigai every day in simple ways. Centenarians are people who live up to the age of 100 or even more. This book, Ikigai, tells us about their simple lifestyle, including their diet, exercises, their beliefs, their Japanese secrets to a long life, their anti aging secrets, and their community life, most importantly. Ikigai is the secret to a long life. It is the happiness of always being busy. It is enjoying our jobs and living through them. When you do something you love, you are completely absorbed in it. You become a part of it. Your ego dissolves, your worries disappear, and your anticipation of the future and the regrets of the past, they all vanish. Ikigai has helped me this way. And also, there is this term that they have that you must love what you do or else you cannot do it. Once George Washington Burnap said, almost 200 years ago, that the grand essentials to happiness in this life are something to do, something to love, and something to hope for. This clearly says that we do not need luxuries to lead a happy life, but we need to do something which will make us happy for the rest of our life. Now, there is a term called the flow in everything you do. Dr. Mihaly, an American Hungarian psychologist, says that flow is the state in which a person is involved in a task so much that he doesn't realize what is happening around him and nothing seems to matter to him. The experience itself is so enjoyable that the person will do it even at great cost just for the sheer sake of doing it. Now, there is a quote mentioned in the book that says, the happiest are those who spend most of their time in their state of flow, not the ones who have achieved the most. Suppose you're painting a pot and you're completely absorbed in it, that you do not even realize the incoming call that you're receiving and about the notifications that have just appeared on your phone. Because it is the state of flow you are in and nothing is important to you. You are busy implementing your creativity on that pot that you don't care what is happening around you. You are so busy wanting to see that pot on your shelf with your very own hands that have made them that it is the only thing that matters to you right now. They believe in seeking balance between physical and mental health. They keep doing low intensity exercises and moving their joints to keep them flexible and avoid diseases like obesity and others. They also believe in resilience, tranquility, and loving the and appreciating the imperfections as an opportunity to grow. Their wabi sabi concept teaches us to appreciate and accept the impermanence of things on this planet. And their ichigo ichii all concept teaches us to love the flawed and the broken. We must not spend our time worrying about life and our future and our past, but we must enjoy it with our friends and family. We must enjoy our present with everyone present around us. But also, we must be prepared to face difficulties that might come our way so that we do not break down when they come. In an interview mentioned in the book, an old lady, Yuki, while sharing her experiences, says that food won't help you live longer. The secret is smiling and having a good time. With these, I summon my speech and ask you to look deeper into yourself and find your ikigai. Go and embrace the meaning of your life. Thank you.
Thank you. I would now call upon Ayush Kumar Naik from 9B.
23rd April 2021, World Book Day and English Language Day. This date reminds me of the date 5 years back that changed my whole life, that put a full stop to my emotional mood swings. A very warm good morning to esteemed principal, honorable teachers, and dear damsels and damsels. This is Ayush Kumar Naik of Bamford House of Class 9A. It was 23rd April 2016 when my adolescence period had just begun. At that time, I always used to find myself alone, making me somber and dejected. On that day, my mother stepped into my room and was surprised to see such a condition of mind. She gave me a good idea to buy a friend, as they are the food and the friends for the hungry and the alone soul. I immediately went to my nearest friend store, that is bookstore. I wanted to read something that would make me journey through the horrors of nature, through the fight between justice and evil. I wanted to make myself experience the thrill that any reader thrives, the hope that any reader desires, the fraudulence that any reader hates, and the revenge that any reader loves. In short, if I say, I wanted to read a detective novel. Finally, I got my choice. The first novel which I read was Murder on the Orient Express by the mystery writer, Queen of Crime, Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie was an English writer known for her 66 detective novels and 14 short story collections. In fact, she is my favorite detective novelist. I have read all of her books, and the most favorite of mine is the ABC Murders. Though Murder on the Orient Express is my first one. I want everyone present in this meeting to venture with me to the year 1934 into the book of the Mystery Queen. The story begins with the scene of white snow fabricing every around. Private Detective Hercule Poirot wants to book a first class compartment on the Simplon Route Orient Express leaving that night. Although the train is fully booked, Poirot obtains a second class berth through the intervention of friend, fellow Belgian, and passenger Monsieur Bauck, the director of International Railways Limited. Leaving Bauck, Poirot, and Michael, the train's driver, there are 12, I said, 12 other passengers, including an American businessman, Samuel Ratchet. Ratchet recognizes Poirot and asks for his protection as the former has been receiving death threats. Poirot refuses his case. The first night that Poirot spends on the train, he observes some strange occurrences. He observes that Ratchet out of fright in his room, said something in Italian, which means, "Oh my God, oh, I'm so sorry, I was mistaken." Poirot spends his whole life thinking, why did an American say in Italian out of scare? The next morning, Poirot founds his answer. He founds Ratchet dead. With help of Dr. Constantine on the train, he finds that there are 12 stab wounds and a charred piece of paper with the name Armstrong on it. Looking at the name, he's able to figure out that Ratchet is actually a famous Italian gangster, Lanfranco Cassetti, who had murdered a girl named Armstrong for money. In order to escape justice, Cassetti had disguised himself as Ratchet and had fled the country. Poirot starts interviewing everyone present on the train as he knows that the murderer would not have been able to escape through the human freezing snow. He's able to see the disguised anger in the eyes and in the hearts of the 12 passengers on being informed about Ratchet. But they seemed emotional and felt pity for that girl. Strange. Only Poirot knows that Ratchet is Cassetti, and rest no one knows. Then why did they have that anger in them? The next morning, Poirot calls everyone to the big dining table and reveals who is the murderer. Can anyone tell me present in this meeting who is the murderer? Anyone? Okay. So the murderers are actually the 12 passengers, and the 12 passengers to admit. He concludes that it is right to kill a man under right circumstances and shows that Cassetti's death was an accident. I hope that you have liked the story, and I would recommend everyone to read Agatha Christie's book as it would be filled with thrill and horror. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayush. We now have Ankur Das Gupta from Standard 9A.
Yes, books are for looks. A look for a tale, or possible a lion, a tiger, or a whale, with mysteries unfolding and growing suspense. A picture, a poem, or a word to look. Good morning, teachers and my dear friends. Myself, Ankur Dasgupta, a student of Standard 9A of Bamfield House, standing here to tell you about my most beloved book and how it changed my mentality towards the books never leave us alone. Whenever I feel alone, I often grab a book and start reading. It's a great hobby to relax yourself as well as gain knowledge at the same time. But I was not a regular reader from the very beginning. My parents tried hundreds and thousands of ways to engage me in reading, but they failed each time because I always thought that reading would be very boring. There was one book in the corners of my shelf which was titled as The Doomsday Conspiracy by Sidney Sheldon, which was responsible for the change in. Let's start with the author of the book, Sidney Sheldon. He was an American writer born in Chicago in 1907. Some of his works, like The Bloodline and The Rage of Angels, were converted into superhit films. He was one of the most notable writer and storyteller of the history. Today, we are going to talk about his second book, which was entitled as The Doomsday Conspiracy. One evening, when I was sitting idle with nothing much to do, I thought of just reading a page from the book. I was sure that after 10 minutes, I would simply find it boring like the others which I read before. But when I left the book, I found that 3 hours had already elapsed. The book was a science fiction with full of intense moments and twists that I was hardly able to retain myself from reading it when I was at leisure time. I was able to imagine myself in place of the main character, which helped me to get to the very depths of the book. The scene started with the introduction of our main cast, Robert Bellamy, a commander of the US Navy and a well-trained undercover spy. He was raised to such a high position by Admiral Ralph Whittaker, who was also Robert's father figure. He receives a mission on behalf of the National Security Agency to locate 10 unknown witnesses who witnessed a weather balloon crash while on a tour to the Alps in Switzerland. On his hunt, he gradually came to know that a weather balloon was actually a drowned UFO with 3 aliens inside, two of which were already dead and one was missing. The aliens were actually a form of vegetable life. After finding each one of the witnesses, he came to know that each one was killed shortly after the talk with. When he thought thoroughly, he came to know that he was in the middle of an international conspiracy headed by a person bearing the code name Jinx. Robert ran for his life because he was the hunted now. He ran in different countries and at last he met with Janus and the last alien at the crash site in Sweden. There, Janus was revealed to be none other than Admiral Ralph Whittaker. Yes, Robert's father figure. At last, the alien took the Admiral with him, and Robert was entitled with the task of spreading eco awareness in the world. Sheldon keeps a lot of secrecy in his books. Most of his books feature a strong female protagonist, but this book was actually a little mixed up. The ending was like that the author ran out of ideas to finish the book, but the ending was still fascinating. This book doesn't only make me realize about how important to save nature has become in today's world, but also teaches us the sad reality of the world. People in today's world do not care about anyone. They only care about their own lives. Sometimes, to even save their own life, they can murder another person. The world has become a cruel place where no one cares for anyone. If someone would ask me to give a suggestion on which book to read, I would surely suggest him to the Sidney Sheldon works because his books has the power to change a person who does not like reading or who thinks that reading would be boring into a regular read. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, Ankur. Now we move on to standard 10, and we have Bhargavi Sahu from standard 10C. Bhargavi.
Yes, ma'am. Zindagi Migzara, Life Goes On, is a remarkable quote from the book The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini. Khalid Hosseini is an Afghan American novelist who is also UNHRC Goodwill Ambassador. The story starts off in Kabul, Afghanistan, with Amir, a 12-year-old boy who is the protagonist of the story. Baba, Amir's father, Hassan, Amir's best friend and his servant, Rahim Khan, Baba's business partner, and Asaf, the antagonist of the story. After winning the kite flying tournament, Hassan is being raped, while Amir witnesses it and does nothing to help his friend. This one mistake of his haunts him down for the rest of his life, and his guilt forces him to cut off from Hassan. Meanwhile, Afghanistan is being invaded by the Russians. Kabul, which was once a beautiful place for Hassan and Amir's childhood, is now terrorized, and all they can hear is constant gunshots. So Baba and Amir try to set off to California to live their life there and bury behind their past. But past has its own way of crawling back into the present and impacting our future. The book's plot setting is partially in Afghanistan, and from time to time it comes back to California. In California, we see a matured version of Amir. Amir has evolved as a person personally and culturally. Khaled Hosseini Three's book, The Kite Runner, speaks about important human emotions like guilt, unmatched loyalty, redemption, self sacrifice, friendship, love, and how there are still ways to be a good person again. The Kite Runner was published back in 2003, settling itself in the New York Times bestseller for 2 years, selling 6 million copies in US alone. It is a 300-page book which contains all the human emotions that a reader is looking for. And regarding the writing style, oh my god, Khaled Hosseini's writing style is so appealing and meticulous that once you start reading this book, you would find it difficult to put it down. One would hardly believe me when I would say that it is Husseini's debut. Some other books by Husseini are The Sea Prayer and The Mountains Echoed and A Thousand Splendid Suns. The Kite Runner's review is overall positive, but it has drawn itself to certain controversies due to its plot, which is set in Afghanistan, and due to the exposure of cruelty of Taliban. The Kite Runner, I think overall, this book was written to be remarkable, but my personal experience was away from the plot setting because it was set in Afghanistan. But Khalid Hosseini's well-crafted characters had made us readers easy for us to slip into the characters' shoes and feel every emotion they were going through. This book is so jam-packed with surprises that at a certain point you would stop expecting because you would get so used to surprises. I would like to recommend this book to people who are interested in reading historical fictions because this is an historical fiction based in Afghanistan in the year 1975. Or for the people who are looking into books that connect with human emotions like guilt, sacrifice, or redemption. The Kite Runner was recommended to me by one of my cousins who is an avid reader, and this book tops the list as a book which made her cry. And I would not shy away to say that this book made me cry too, because there are scenes and instances in it which just rips your soul apart. But overall, I would not like to recommend the Kite Runner to everyone because this book demands for a certain level of maturity. And if you're a person who cannot endure human pain abruptly, then this book is not for you. Personally, after reading this book, I was emotionally and mentally mature and strong because it altered my aspect at looking at the world. The Kite Runner is so excruciating, draining, frustrating, but it is so hopeful, inspiring, and beautiful at the same time. Some of my favorite quotes from this book are: a boy who won't stand up for himself becomes a man who can't stand up for anything. If I was going to toy with him and challenge his loyalty, then he would toy with me, test my integrity. And lastly, better to get hurt by the truth than comforted with a lie. So if you think that you can endure human pain, then the Kaipan is for you. Because after all, Husseini is a tragedy. And this book is so well crafted that I read this book twice. No wonder it is in my top 5 list. And for those who have already read this book, for you, 1,000 times over. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhargavi. We now have Abhijit Patnaik from Standard 10A.
Are you afraid of ghosts? Or do you have a knack for comedy? If so, I am here with a famous book which is definitely meant for none other than you. A very good morning, my esteemed teachers and my fellow contestants. This is Abhijit Patnaik of Standard 10A, present before you to keep forth my views on The Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde was an Irish poet and playwright. Wilde was born at 21 Westland Row, Dublin. He became associated with the emerging philosophy of aestheticism led by two of his tutors, Walter Pater and John Ruskin. He received his education at Trinity College in Dublin and Magdalen College, Oxford. Some of his most famous novels include The Picture of Dorian Gray and the Star Child, The Happy Prince, The Portrait of Mr. W.H., and of course, The Canterville Ghost. His works imbibe both realism and fantasy and are profuse with different forms of elaborate imagery. The Canterville Ghost is one of his renowned novellas, which has a very comic element intricately woven into the theme of horror. And as it is customary with Wilde, a surprise twist at the end, which has appealed immensely to me. This fiction both belongs to the genre of horror as well as comic stories. and it narrates the story of a rather unfortunate ghost, the Tantabile ghost, who turns him to terrify the new owners of the house, which he has been haunting for the past 3 centuries, and the humorous events that follow thereafter when he tries to play tricks with them. When the Otis family, comprising Mr. Otis, the American minister, Mrs. Otis, their daughter Virginia, and a pair of twin brothers brought the Tankerville chase, everyone, including Lord Tankerville, had forewarned him about an apparitional ghost that had been haunting the lodging for years untold. However, the family was so obsessed in their belief in the non-existence of ghosts that they showed no concern about it. The host had killed many people in his long career of 3 centuries. He tried many of his tricks on the Otis family too. While dining, they used to find a stain of blood on the floor, and more surprisingly, it changed its color every day. However, Mr. Otis deftly removed it using his stain remover and detergent. Be it the incident when the family was awoken at midnight by an old man in rags knocking at the door, and instead of being terrified, Mrs. Otis brought him a lubricator to oil his chains that were preventing them from sleeping, or how he was presented with a medicine for indigestion when he made eerie and mysterious sounds to frighten them. But the family never got petrified of the ghostly presence haunting them. After too many unsuccessful attempts, the ghost had finally apparently given up. But Virginia, the 15-year-old girl of the family, who was a bit scared of the apparition, one morning, while climbing up the stairs, she found the Tankerville ghost right in front of her. She felt pity on his dilapidated condition. He revealed to her that he was in reality the ghost of Sir Simon, the great-grandfather of Lord Tankerville, and he had been starved to death by his wife's brothers. The ghost requested her to lead him to the garden of death, where he could be free from all worldly shackles. Finally, after a lot of deliberations, the little girl finally agreed to do so. The ghost went into peace forever at the garden of death. From then onwards, every year, Virginia would go to place a rose on the grave of the ghost. Although notorious, the girl believed that the ghost had taught her how love was superior to life and death. Now, coming to my opinion on this book, what has appealed the most to me is Oscar Wilde's distinctive writing style of paradox, which has not left untouched even this story too. The most engrossing part of the story is just as the plot becomes seemingly obvious and predictable when the ghost of Sir Simon de Tankerville fails in his efforts, the little member of the family becomes a savior for him. While it juxtaposes an atmospheric Gothic setting, the typical British haunted house, with the practical American family who have an amusing way of reacting to the appearance of Sir Simon. For anyone who is afraid of reading such horror stories, let me tell you that this is more of a comedy replete with humor than a ghost story. The most appealing part of the story was indeed how the family members brought the ghost different things instead of getting petrified at all. That makes the plot equally gripping as amusing. My favorite character in the story was, of course, the little girl Virginia, as she was kind and sympathetic even to the ghost of Tankerville. The story, although a ghost, has a hidden ethical value. How little acts of kindness, benevolence, and sympathy can bring about great changes, and that applies even to the paranormal world too. Just like the little girl's consideration towards the apparitional ghost brought him liberty from all worldly ties and bonds. However, one pitfall of the story is that the focus of the story could have been wider and the plot made more interesting, while could have possibly made the story more engrossing by adding more characters with different dimensions and attributes to it. Nevertheless, for all intents and purposes, this book is a good read for people of all age groups. I would definitely recommend this book to you if you want to have a new taste of the phantasmatic world and go beyond. It is a wonderful companion to have by your bedside on a dark night when you are all alone. And from then onwards, you won't be scared of those, provided that you can be clever enough as the artist. There is much more into the plot, but do you want me to reveal everything about it? I won't. Though, and get yourself a copy of this fantastic book And I promise you, it will definitely be a good read for you. With this, I would like to conclude my speech. Thank you and have a fabulous day ahead.
Thank you, Abhijit. Now we have Rebecca Mahanti from Standard 10D.
Good morning, one and all. I am Rebecca Mahanti from Standard 10T. Before reviewing the book, I would thank every single one of you who has put their effort into making this program successful so far. Because as book readers, all of the book readers will agree to me in this point. Because as book readers, we always go and prattle about our books which we've read to our family members, friend, everybody. But I'm so happy that we needed a platform and we've been provided with one today. So the book which I have chosen to speak about is this. This is Wanda by R.J. Palacio. She is an American writer and a graphic designer. She is also known for her amazing work in the book named Wanda, which is New York bestseller, which was in the New York bestseller list, which has now been adapted into a movie, which is now an Oscar nominated film. Some books, they leave us wondering about how immensely blessed we are and what a beautiful life we lead. And I would say one such book is surely Wonder. This is a story of a 10-year-old boy named August Pullman, who's the protagonist and around whom the whole story revolves. It's about a boy who has a facial deformity, and he had multiple surgeries to correct his facial deformities because he was a victim of a very rare genetic disorder which had prevented him from looking normal and ordinary. And for this reason, he had been homeschooled till his fifth grade. And but now his parents decided him to put him into a new school. They wanted him to step out of the house and go into the real world. So this book in particular, it covers his experiences and journey, his memories and his struggle in his new school. It helps us to explore a journey of his friend, his family, and everyone around him. Now, if you've marked my words, I said a journey because journey is never about a single person struggling to achieve something. Journey is your near and dear ones being there with you, because those who love you, they always sail along with you. And so was in case of this book. August's parents were super supportive. They stood right behind him whenever he needed them. So this story and his journey was never easy. So this story especially covers his journey, and it also portrays both the weak and strong moments of the protagonist, which I think makes him more raw and vulnerable, just like a human being and not just a mere character. Like we can see, he was bullied, he was mocked by different people, he was looked upon, he was looked upon, and but in the whole process, I would say August had never lost his spirit. He knew that his life would never be easy. People won't accept him so soon, but he also knew the key to how to make it better and easier. So he had a great sense of humor. He would use his humor in the most traumatizing and hopeless situations. And that presents, how August was successful to making his life a bit better than what it was. Like this story, it really shows, like the author really shows this story and August's life in a very simple and straightforward manner. You can pretty much guess what's going to happen next, but there's something deep, there's something deeper, and I would say it's the emotional connect. One can easily feel the central character, as I felt. Like, for example, you can feel a lump in your throat when August has his downs. You will find your lips curl into a beautiful, satisfactory smile when he has his up. And when you finish this book, I promise it'll be an outpour of emotion. This book is such a wonder, I would say. This book is wonderful. And coming to the writing style and the language used by the author, I would say the best part of this inspirational story is it is presented from the perspective of various characters in the story. So it helps us to get an overall image of August. Just like you can say the world offers us multiple perspective, So does this story, and I think this makes it more realistic. This is the distinct writing style of the author. The language used is really simple because the author is a children's novelist. She writes books for children. So she keeps in mind that children don't have to Google all the words time and again. They don't have to peep into the dictionary time and again. So the language is very simple but effective, I would say. And that turns the pages automatically, and that's the magic and secret of this book. And I would recommend all of you why I had chosen this book in particular to speak on. It's because it has a very nice message hidden in it. Now, I would state it by quoting a line from the book, which is, when given the choice between being right or being kind, choose kind. This line, it says it all. It's self-explanatory. I don't have to say anything. Like this book, it has an underlying message of kindness, which I think every one of us should remember and apply it in our own respective life, because this is so essential and important to our time, especially the world we live in. Like, people in this world, we tend to judge people externally and not look the other side of it. And this book inspires us all to be kind at every moment in our life, because it's never enough to be kind. So treat people with kindness whenever you can, wherever you find an opportunity. This is something, I've learned from this book, and this helped me to stick to it till the very end. So this is something why I've chose this book. I would say not just this, but this book offers you, like, it serves you rather a buffet of lessons, like from kindness to friendship to self-acceptance to parenting, and there's so much more. But if I had to conclude it in one way, I would say it's a mixed bag of dualities, from being a children's novel to an adult read, from a family comedy to an inspirational story, from uh reality, from fiction to reality. But if it has to be this one thing, I would say it's a must read. So this is story of August. It's the story of pure courage and kindness that tells us that more than the face, it's the heart that really matters. So I would recommend every single one of you, because this book doesn't demand a particular age group of people to, read. It is for all the age group, because kindness is a whole process. It is not restricted to one age, to a particular age group. So this book, please go for it. Treat yourself and you will never regret, because it's affordable. It's available online. It's available in your nearest bookstores. Go for this and treat yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I would like to congratulate each of the participants for their wonderful presentation. It was really, really wonderful. I have got no words to tell you how much I have enjoyed, and I think all the teachers present over here, they have also enjoyed. Now, all this time, we have been talking about books, isn't it? But do you know what a book is? A definition of a book. Now I will share a very apt definition of a book by a famous personality.